Welcome. Hi, I'm Mikki, and this is Mikkipedia, where I sit down and chat to doctors, professors, athletes, practitioners, and experts in their fields related to health, nutrition, fitness, and well-being. And I'm delighted that you're here. Happy Wednesday, peeps. Great to have you here. I'm Mikki. You are listening to Mikkipedia. And today on the podcast, I am delighted to bring to you the conversation that I had with Lou Hellar, personal stylist, fashion writer and blogger, and all-around style guru. Lou and I have such a good conversation about the power of clothes and their ability to transform someone. We're both in the business of transformation, and Lou shares with us her own personal transformation over her adult years, and particularly in the last couple of years, and also how she helps people find their true selves through their wardrobe, and it is a fascinating conversation. As we were recording this, Lou was putting the final touches on the style journal, which you can find over on her website, louhellarstylist.com, and it will be linked in the show notes, which is a step-by-step guide to uncover the essence of what makes you you, teaching you to enhance your attributes so your best style becomes undeniable. So she walks you through what you need to look for with regards to using your clothes to gain confidence and get a real true sense of self through your wardrobe. Lou and I also talk about this because of course the cost of a one-on-one with her is potentially beyond the limit for a number of people. So this is a really great way that Lou has made her services available. And if you follow Lou on social media, particularly Instagram anyway, she is filled with tips and tricks and gives away so much free information that is useful regardless of background, budget, or anything like that. So I absolutely recommend that you give Lou a follow. Before we move on to the interview though, I'd just like to remind you of the recipe portal access. $12 a month, less than a cup of coffee a week. If you feel that you would love to support the podcast and were unsure of how to do that, that would be one way that you could do that. And in addition, you get access to pick my brain on anything nutrition related. You're able to design your own meal plan within our meal planning portal. You have access to over 600 recipes, and that is regularly updated. You get weekly emails from me and also member-only Facebook Lives. So that would be an amazing thing to do. But you know what? Honestly, subscribing on your favorite podcast platform and leaving a 5-star review would also just be phenomenal as well. With all that said, please enjoy my conversation that I had with Lou Hellar. Morning, Lou. How are you doing?
I am very good, thank you,
Good,
Mikki.
and thank you so much for taking time out of what I know is a busy period for you, sort of getting people all kind of sorted for their spring, summer lifestyle outfit. But I've got to say, I'm quite chuffed to jump on and we're both wearing the same top.
I know, we're twinning.
I know, twinning. And the day that I twin with Lou Hellar, and to be fair, this will be the only time it probably happens, it's definitely one worth remembering. Lou, I wanted to get on and chat to you today, and some people who listen to my podcast frequently might think that this is a little bit of a pivot in terms of the conversations that you and I can have in our respective fields. But I feel like there is just so much synergy with what we do, you know?
Massively so.
Yeah, and we've spoken...
Even I had a split second where I looked at your list of who you've had prior to me, and I kind of went, what? But then I kind of went, no, actually, how we work and how we are aligned is very much in terms of the core parts of each individual person, and getting to bring out the best in them.
That's exactly right. And we both work in the business of transformation, and be it physical, obviously, and how we appear, how we look, how we project ourselves, but more so it is at that core, right? It's that sort of like how we see ourselves and how we can, I suppose, grow and develop. And clothes are such an important part of that.
Hugely so. And I don't think people ever really understand or respect that part of it. And I know that for years this was something that, I even hid myself for a really long time, because I kind of went off on other tangents and did other things because I didn't, or was told that this was just something that you do as a hobby and people won't take you seriously. And I probably saw it as a selfish thing, that because I liked making myself feel good with how I felt, but I always had my friends asking me all the time, but I never believed in myself enough to understand that the power that transformation feeling that I was feeling within my wardrobe, even from a little girl, how I could help the bigger scale and the greater good, and that's now helping me now delve into seeing the mirrors of what people are seeing when they're being reflected back into their wardrobe, where they are in their current mode, and then I'm showing them kind of like, right, well, let's delve into this, and it's not with everyone, because everyone does sometimes just need just the clothing, but I am finding more and more people want to understand the inner self, and the inner self is always what's been reflected out. And so because I'm that way inclined, I am someone who's pretty deep, and when I say spiritual, that can freak people out, but it is what it is, and it's something that I even cut off myself for years, until probably in the last couple of years, where I've gone through a big personal transformation myself. So, this is something that I've been through myself, and I can help people with my own stories by helping them connect within themselves. And if I'm that person who they can just hold to someone just to understand parts of them, then I'm going to definitely put my hand up and try and help as many as I can.
Awesome, Lo. Can we actually start with your story? Because I feel, I really want to understand what you've just talked about, the ignoring or being told to ignore it for a number of years, but how did you actually then find yourself to where you are now?
God, let me take a breath. It's a big one. I think what I did for a really long time was just sort of, I guess, fit into everybody else's boxes. I was a kid who just grew up very normal, farming family. Went off to boarding school, but I just definitely had these parts of me that felt very unheard. I was at times, I guess, unheard around my direction. I was extremely creative, but I wasn't a kid that, or teenager particularly, or probably some of my damaging years, I guess is probably the word or traumatic, not damaging. Everyone's got their own kind of stories, but mine was around my parents, I guess, with their separation, that kind of thing. And I lost, I guess, big parts of me, and I was constantly searching outwardly from that point onwards to try and fix me all the time, and whether that was people, and but at the same time, the flip side of that is every time I felt myself or within, I was like, oh, I'm actually all right, I'm doing okay, and I'm enough. But then every time I'd then lose that momentum, I found myself kind of looking outwardly all the time for that fix. And I met my husband. I moved to Christchurch. I had a couple of creepy things happen when I was a late teenager, and I moved to Christchurch to sort of like get away from it, I guess. And I then met my husband when I was very young. I was 20, and I was not a looker when I was a teenager. No boys ever kind of really looked at me. So I think I just sort of like was, oh, well, that's it then. I'm not, no one's going to ever look at me again. And my self-worth was really low.
Yeah.
But even when I was little, I'm going to go back a little bit because this is how my brain works, but I used clothing all the time as the thing where I would just transform myself, and I felt so at myself and at peace, and made me happy. And I always, even as a teenager, I was helping my friends get dressed, and I could just see the shift in this was like, you couldn't even compare the two. And
was it obvious to the adults around you as well, like as a young girl, that when you dressed up and stuff, that you were just so much more vibrant and vivacious compared to normal? Was that how it was, or not as much as?
I don't know, actually. My dad would probably say, yeah, you definitely love spending my money growing up, spending in the shops. But you're a kid, what else are you meant to do, right? And and then I think, I kind of, I actually, my background is in forestry because I never sort of thought I'd be, I really wanted to be an architect, but I just was told I was too not very bright, and so all those kinds of little stories, they kind of, you take them on,
you do.
they become you, and but I just knew I had this creative bend. So anyway, I went down the food of forestry because my mum's family is very much into horticulture, and so I moved to Christchurch and I studied interior design for a bit, and then I went and worked for a florist, and then I just noticed that still all the time I just had this feeling where I wanted to be in the industry somehow. I didn't know how, what that kind of meant, and then we had our children. So I've got George 17, Margot's 13, and Will's 11. And so I just was at home really, and I had the florist business at home, but then I decided to kind of delve into this industry of the fashion. And years ago, I had a friend of mine who owned a shop, and she said, "Can I work for a bit?" So I worked for free just to get the experience, because I could see there was this, I don't know how this would transpire, because someone always said, "Can I work on the shopping floor to get experience to be in the industry?" And I was like, "But I don't want to work on the floor because that's not right." Yes, you get to see people and change them, but it's not the same. So then I guess over time I was also starting to sort of see what was going on in my personal life, is that I was starting to listen and still I was dulling down myself more and more and more.
Yeah.
I became more lower within myself. I wasn't listening to these voices, I think, that kind of kept being known. I think, well, some things that I was dealing with and putting up with, and as you do, I think as women, you just sort of, you fit in to society. You know, my society thing was like, be pretty, be popular, do all of that, because you might find a boy, and if you find a boy, you'll get married. If you get married, solve all your problems. And if you have kids, well, now that's going to really fix all your problems. You know, and it just, I was miserable, and I had to really start, I guess, fighting back for me and actually putting me first for a little bit. And so parts of that meant I had to start delving into the parts of me, which was this fashion part of it, the transformation, the listening. So I then had an online clothing store for a bit, and I loved it because it provided something that I knew Kiwis weren't getting at the time. It got too full on. My kids were little. I closed that down. And then I went and worked for someone else, and I was her buyer and her stylist, and I discovered parts of me through her. You know, the job was interesting, but it was, I'm thankful for what it taught me, and that's parts of it were how not to treat people, how not to see them as people who are just going to come and spend money just because you're selling it, because it's filling the bank account. I had to start educating, and the education came around from, I was like, can I do this? I don't know. Because at the same time, I had these loud inner voices of kind of like, you can stand up to yourself, you can stand up for, because I was always such a people pleaser. I was like, if you do that, people are going to hate you. Oh no, if you get dressed, oh no, they're going to judge. It was just this constant thing all the time. And I started really, I just really started to see the power in what I was starting to understand about myself and how I could then help others. And so then basically what transpired from that, I remember sitting there one day, there were two things here. One was, I thought to myself, God, if I start really showing the true me, will people hate me? Will they, because, and also, if I start showing me, I've got bitch thoughts. I've got horrible thoughts about things that I've never really talked about before. There are things like, do you know what? You're not a very nice person, and I'm not going to stand up for that, because I'd always be someone that would be like, oh no, that's okay. Yeah. I was a yes person. And so then I thought to myself, no, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm just going to go into this and see what happens. And so that was the beginning. So it's about 2.5 years ago. And then halfway through the year, I went on a girls' trip to Queenstown, and I had two run-ins with complete and utter strangers that completely changed my whole narrative.
Oh, wow.
They changed me. They just said things to me that made me go, oh my God, I had not thought about that before. I had not questioned that about myself before. Or they just said things to me that they were saying about me that I had never heard in another perspective, because these people didn't know me. They knew nothing about me.
Yeah.
And so when I'd heard it from other people, I was like, yeah, but you're just saying that. Whereas this was it was bizarre. Anyway.
So was it that they were confirming what maybe the voice in your head was telling you, that you could be strong, independent, and be who you want?
Yeah.
Was that how other people saw you, but you just failed to see in yourself?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And it was just, it was sort of like a wake up, dickhead.
Yeah.
It was like that.
Yeah.
And so that from that, and then I came, sort of now 2.5 years later, I've stopped and I've thought, actually, I can still be, I can be me. And if I'm not right, it's not because I'm not being right, it's because I'm being true to myself, which is making me feel stronger. By being stronger, I can be kind, but I can be, a bit of a bitch, but I'm a kind bitch. And it's because I've got boundaries now. That's the difference.
Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to teach, everyone, is that when we have our boundaries and we stick to them, it stops that kind of like outer stuff getting into us all the time, and that's what I just had to start doing. I had to start looking after myself, but I can still be kind by doing that, and that's just by having boundaries. I'm being kind to other people by being kind to myself.
Lou, I guess some of the questions I've got from that is, you're talking about this transformation and how you viewed yourself, and then therefore how you changed you changed the narrative in your own head. What steps outside of those two incidences in Queenstown, just earlier on, what made you sort of go, right, I have to be strong in this moment? Were there any self-help books, any things that you listened to, any people that you trusted to talk to? What were your steps with that? Because I guess this is where people get sort of stuck.
Where do I
think.
go?
Yeah.
My first place was myself. I started to take time. I guess that's what the first part of COVID really also did for me as well. But my first part was starting to listen to myself without the judgment. I would find moments of quietness, and I would write, and I would get those parts out of me that I knew needed to be explored, heard for the first time. I would cry. I would let it out. I was someone that hid a lot of things about myself because I was just too afraid to speak up about them. What else did I do? I did a lot of, therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I've had done therapy over the years, but I found a therapist for the first time who actually heard me because I was only starting to hear myself, and it stopped me thinking about the external people around me and actually what they would worry about or think about me, because this just would go on and on. The stories in my head would take over.
Yeah.
I stopped being in my head. I think I just stopped thinking from my head and I started thinking from my gut, and that's probably been my biggest thing. I think people don't see the power in actually breathing from the gut, from what they do from breathing in the head.
Yeah.
I can quickly tell, when people are in their minds because their voices are higher, their eyes are darting, but when someone's coming from their truth and from their, around here, and they're breathing from here, their voice is deeper, they connect, and you can sort of like, you are able to kind of connect with people when they're just within. And that, I've had to really question the people around me. I've had to, think about the people who've only kept me there because of my last name, or, because of my husband's their business, that kind of thing. So there was a lot of really now, I had to really delve so much more into things of, if I'm going to put myself out there, I can't do that unless I'm going to be 100% myself.
Yeah.
I started doing some training around therapy myself. I did that because of my children. I kind of thought, well, they're going to be teenagers one day, I can do that for them.
Yeah.
And be someone who they can talk to and trust, and help them through something that's not going to make them feel like I'm a mum, but also too where I can be a mum who can be a guiding mum without the judgment. And I think that's a very important thing, because I had two parents when I was 15 who didn't really know how to deal with, I guess, 4 kids, let alone, someone I was an extra sensitive, extra empathetic person. And spiritual too. So that was a very hard thing to kind of get my head around. Whereas because I am that way inclined, I find it very easy to kind of connect with my kids in a way that it allows me to sort of help them through some sticky times. And it's also transpired in a way that I can help that with my clients as well.
Yeah, completely. So, what is it about what we wear, Lou, that influences how we feel?
Well, I guess the first part of it is around, you think about yourself as a child.
Yeah.
When you're a child, you don't have any inhibits inhibiting things that would cause you to stop thinking that you can't wear that. When you're a child, you just basically, anything on and you feel good.
Yeah.
Unless you've got, to a degree, a parent that, mine was a strawberry dress. I had a dress that had strawberries all over it, and I can still remember the feeling of it.
Yeah.
It was like epic.
Amazing.
But what happens as you get older, as a teenager, you then start to sort of try and fit into your peers. But there are parts of you that are desperately trying to be almost loud, more unique as a teenager, but you are pulled back to try and fit in because, again, it comes down to that conditioning, the social conditioning. If they're doing that, then I better do that. But, I really admire those kids that are trying to get out on their own and do their own thing, because that's really, really, really tough to do, let alone you get the bullying and things like that. So, and then I guess what happens is it doesn't really change when you get into your 20s and 30s. What then happens is you get the packs around you. You then move into those stages where you are having children. And then there's the mum groups, and then there's going up with your friends. And then sometimes you don't want to stand out, so you already think in your mind, okay, if I'm going to go out and I'm with them, what are they going to be wearing, or da-da-da. And it stops you thinking about yourself. But when you just, the feeling is a massive, massive part of how I work. My questions I always ask my client is, give me 3 words how you would describe your style right now. Give me 3 feeling words around that style. And they might be like comfortable, boring, safe, So I get words like that. But then I try and get them to think about that projection forward by visualizing themselves with no inhibition, themselves walking down a street in the world with their dream kick-ass outfit on, and the feelings and the style behind that. What does that feel like? And they'll quickly go somewhere and they'll remind themselves of a place that makes them feel incredible. And so when you base yourself from this feeling of kind of like no inhibition, this is how I want to feel, because this is how deep down I feel with no judgment from anyone else. I want to reflect that out there in the world.
Yeah. That
tells me a lot. That helps me base myself and helping them work moving forward with their style. And so I give them a lot of tools and things like that to keep them on track. Because if you, that self-narrative what I talked about before, if you're waking up and you're already not feeling great, and then you go in and you're kind of getting, looking for outfits reflecting of how you're feeling, you're just going to throw and put on things that kind of reflect how you feel. Whereas if you wake up every day and you might be like, I want to feel strong, flirty, and structure, or that to me is style words. So you start to, I think in my head, pair of jeans, a gorgeous bright blouse, and a blazer. Or so to me, because my brain works 3-dimensional, I can do this work easily myself, but I'm trying to teach others that the feeling great will reflect back into the wardrobe. And why go out shopping and just spend hours and hours looking for this stuff which is just meh? Or, everything in your wardrobe has to make you feel incredible. Because when you feel incredible, you are light, your vibration is light. You can, kick on with your day. You can spread the love to other people. You can, us as human beings, and this is what I'm learning myself every day, we're here to teach and share and do as much as we can to help others. We're not here to be takers. And so I love that feeling of, if I can give, and I'm trying to give other people to give, the flow and effect is that of that they might be feeling amazing, and then they can share with others and give. And it just, to me, it just seems, after everything we've been through, so much negativity, and I'm just sort of really trying to shift this stuff through a wardrobe. I know it sounds crazy, but
No, do you know, it makes so much sense to me. Like, as you're talking, of course I'm reflecting on me and what I wear, what I've worn in the years. And I'm thinking that, so when I moved to Auckland in 2005, I decided that I was going to wear skirts, because in Dunedin, as I grew up, I wore skirts occasionally, but every time I wore a skirt, people would comment, and I felt self-conscious. And they're like, oh, Mikki, you've got a skirt on today. And I would then go, I shouldn't be wearing a skirt. I don't wear a skirt. I'm not, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not, I'm not girly enough. I'm not all of that stuff. When I moved to Auckland, I thought, no one knows me up here. I can wear a skirt. And I just started wearing skirts, which is, you know, that. And I felt real, it was quite liberating for me. Actually, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it
Yeah.
really was.
No, it's not ridiculous. And this is the crazy thing. This is what I deal with on a daily basis. You know, it's those, we are born into this world with no conditioning whatsoever, you know, but when we hear something once, you're like, that's not right because I don't feel like that. But then you hear it twice and you're like, no, I still don't feel like that, but then maybe they're onto something. And then the third time you hear it, you're like, yeah, they're right.
Yeah.
Fuck it, you know, and you make up the stories to believe that stuff when it's not true. Yeah. We know the stuff, we know ourselves, but yet over time we allow other stories to become our own.
Yeah.
And there's so much of that, you know, the 80s does have a lot to answer for around styling, like navy and black together and, you know, don't wear silvers and golds together. And, you know, I spent half my time reconditioning a lot of shit that went on in the 80s.
So navy and black together is fine?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Okay, that's good. I always wondered that, actually.
Yeah. If you do it with things like, you know, different types of textures and fabrics like wool and leather and, you know.
It's like the double denim, you know, like the whole idea of no double denim. Then it suddenly came in and then you had the different shades of denim. And then I remember you saying put a belt around it. And I'm like, oh, then I thought in my head, I don't wear belts. Funny, eh? Like, I don't do that. Yeah. I'm not that person. But that's how, you know, that is how we sort of, you know, how we see ourselves plays a massive part in how we dress and how we're projected. Like, I've always been someone who I've always said I've got a style, but I'm not very fashionable. You know, like I'm not I don't follow fashion, but I have a particular style. And my style's never been particularly dressy or girly. So I like when I go in and have to do talks at conferences or things like that, I've often wished that I could show up in a lovely dress but wear it with like jeans or sneakers or something like that, like to make it not quite so dressy because I can't quite do the high heels purely because bad for my feet and I wouldn't be able to walk properly. But I've always shied away from that because it projects an authority which I don't feel I have, which then
have or worthy of, Mikki?
Probably I would say the former, but when you word it like that, probably the latter. But also, it's true though, right, that you have to feel comfortable in what you're wearing in order to feel like you've got that confidence. Like when I get super dressed up or feel awkward in what I'm wearing, I think I would project that.
Yes. And I guess the secret to that is because you are very right. That does happen a lot. I think sometimes we think we have to look a certain way, but if your power outfit makes you feel a certain way, then it's about wearing that. But at the same time, I always say about practicing the leveling up. Practice the leveling up in terms of how far can you go? How far can you push yourself? And this is the kind of work that I do. It's about basically I'm reteaching people's narratives around what their levels or their heights are, around their comfortableness of what their extra would kind of feel like.
Yeah.
You know, and it does come down to lifestyle. Lifestyle is a huge thing. And if you're someone who is, you know, you're a multi-sport person and, you know, I know that you spend a lot of time sort of in that realm, you know, and so that's not I couldn't imagine you in a big frou-frou like Trilly Scooper. It's not like if I took you shopping, I will kind of like intuitively pick up on your lifestyle and the shops of where to go and those kinds of things. So I wouldn't take you into some places. But at the same time, I will push you to your limit where I know you can get to, you know, and I can, you know, to a degree, I would probably see you in like a really gorgeous sort of like full skirt and a kind of cool singlet, you know, which would show off your beautiful shoulders and that kind of thing and your hair back and, you know, maybe a little bit of like a bangle on your bracelet because to me, that would be something that would bring out your femininity but your strength of your power within yourself.
Yeah, I get it. Lou, it's funny you say that actually because I have just started ordering myself some midi dresses and I've got 2 and now I just need a cool pair of sneakers to go with them because I imagine that would be quite cool purely based on what I've seen you like post on your Instagram, and I feel quite excited to wear them and I can be brave enough when I'm locked down at home basically because I don't have to wear them outside of my house.
But that's actually the key as well. I always, if people kind of go, oh, I love the idea of wearing a dress, but I don't, I don't feel comfortable if I go out and I'm being judged at the school gate, because that people say that a lot. And I always say, okay, so your first step here is, even in your weekends, you get up and you just put a dress on, or get up in the morning, you put your dress on. You don't go to your easy go-tos. Get up, you do your dishes in it, you do your vacuuming in it, you do all your shit jobs. Yeah. So by the time you walk out the door, you're feeling comfortable, not even thinking about what you're wearing.
Yep.
And that removes that sense of like the worry of the things that you've already pent up kind of prior.
Yeah, and because it actually does matter. Like, these thoughts that take up real estate in our head prevent us from going out and being awesome at the things that we are awesome about. And I talk to people about that all the time with regards to how food can make them feel, and how what they eat, and the thoughts they tell themselves, and how they judge themselves on what they eat, and how, the guilt that's associated with it. It's the same thing. These are such worthless thoughts that prevent us from really sort of moving into a space and really owning it and being our best selves.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to touch about that, because that's something I've not talked about. Is I was always around 35 kilos heavier than what I am now. And so that's because I was a teenager who, food for me was a thing that I hid parts of me in.
Yeah.
It was the easy relaxer. It was the, my best friend and I, we would we were both sort of big girls. No boys definitely ever looked at us, but at the same time, it was just sort of what we felt together. We felt, and food for us was that thing, it bound us basically. And I was, I'm trying to think, kind of probably the earthquakes for me were the biggest game changer.
Wow.
But I also I look back now, so it's been a 10-year thing for me. So after the I lost a lot of weight after the earthquakes, because I went through a lot of stress. We were red zoned and things like that. And my youngest at the time was only very much a newborn. He was still in my tummy when the very, very first one hit. So he was due. And I went into shock quite bad. And so we lost everything and rebuilt our homes around the country and that kind of thing. And I just started to, I started to feel quite different, that I had this bit of less sort of weight on my body. And I started to then eat well, and then I started to exercise, and then I noticed that the two were kind of starting to kind of like make me feel better in my gut. I think the stronger I looked after my gut, the stronger my gut became.
Yeah.
And now 10 years on, like, people always sort of say, how did you do that? And I kind of go, it was not an overnight thing. This has taken me 10 years to help me understand my body. And it's consistency. I do things 5 days, 6 days a week. I go for walks, I run, I never just do this to kind of like make it a short-term thing, and I've discovered things over time. I've talked to you about it before with the fasting things like that over time. I did a lot of reading and research and things like that, but what I've discovered is, because I now eat very clean, I do drink obviously sometimes, but not very, but I've noticed that the cleaner my gut is, the cleaner my gut is.
Yeah.
I'm able to listen to myself so much more. I'm not in my head, and I haven't got those things in my body that are causing me to think negative, because I really do believe when you are putting your, not the right things into your gut, they are not working well with the mind and things like that. And we are humans. You think about, I know this is very quite large, but the moons are one of the largest magnets. How can it, I always think, how can it magnetize the ocean? Yeah. And how do we think that we aren't sort of somehow working along with the moon as well? We're human beings, and we're very connected, and we're very, our guts are the things that kind of really keep us kind of going in our minds. That I actually feel like our guts are our biggest brains, and that's, to me, is something that I really do. The power on that is the body, mind, spiritual, and emotional is the 4 parts to us that really are connected. And now people always say, how do you kind of work with your gut? And I always say, you just practice. It's like a muscle. You can stand in front of the supermarket aisle in front of the herbal tea and ask, what does my body need right now? And you get out of your head, and your gut will say it's either peppermint or chamomile. It's those little wee practices. The more that you do that, the more you can stand in a changing room and know when someone tells you, a floor person, and say, oh, that looks amazing on you, but your gut is going,
Nah, I know what you
Yeah.
mean. Yeah. It's interesting, Lou, with that physical transformation. What I would say, though, before I ask you a question about that is 100% am with you on the fact that we are human and connected to our, obviously, but connected to our environment in a way that we forget. And it's because we're in, we've constructed modern society and the rest of it that we are actually part of nature. And so it makes
Yeah.
sense that we are pulled and sort of governed a lot by the things in nature, even if we don't recognize it. And in fact, sort of finding your way back to that can be quite grounding for most people who need it. And obviously, not everyone feels it, but if you feel that unsettled, anxious, not sure sort of feelings, which a lot of people are feeling right now, just with regards to what's going on in the world, then kind of connecting back to that can be so helpful.
Yeah.
Lou, with your physical transformation, did that freak a lot of people out around you? And
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing, right?
Judgment.
Like, that's it. And like, so it's the same thing when we wear something different and people judge us, so we get afraid of it. A lot of people I work with, when they lose weight to a point, and then they actually start being scared of losing more from this idea that they're not quite sure how people are going to perceive them, and they haven't quite voiced that yet, but I've seen it enough to sort of know intuitively that a lot of that can be going on.
Very much so. Not only do I see that with clients, I have clients, like my client the other day lost 75 kilos. Amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a client lose 35 herself. She's actually one of my IGTV stories, Bernice. And that's something that we talked about a lot. And this is something, again, it's another story I can connect with people about, is because I've been there, and the judgment is huge. Because I'm someone who's on this crazy social platform, which I've only been really doing for 2 years, it's the judgment behind that. People don't actually know my backstory.
Yeah.
But I've also had friends judge me. I hear gossip often, and particularly what I'm going through in my personal life with my separation and that kind of thing as well. Some days it gets tough.
Yeah.
Some days it's hard, but I just sit there and kind of go, wow. And these are people I even know. I hear things about my weight or whatever, and I just kind of go, man, you must be really miserable if you've got a comment about my shit, because I'm doing quite fine, thank you. I'm fit, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I look after myself.
Dare I say, is that regional New Zealand? Christchurch isn't quite regional, but I don't know, it's just life, isn't it? And unfortunately, things like that, the smaller place you sort of come from, the more those sort of things get back to you, eh?
Yeah, it's sad. All I'm trying to do is help.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. All I want to do is just help, and I think some people, when they're sort of in that in a dialogue themselves of not feeling worthy of their own self, the first thing to do is to comment about another. And this is the thing that I really pride myself on. I only really surround myself with people who are unconditional, and because when you get together with them, you don't actually sit around and talk about other people.
Yeah.
And that's so freeing, and you get to walk away from conversations and be like, wow, my cup's full.
Yeah.
And I even helped them.
Yeah. Yeah. Lou, you talked on social media this week actually about what happened to you in a cafe with a couple of sort of middle-aged women. Yeah, do you want to, isn't it funny how I'm like middle-aged woman? We are both actually middle-aged ourselves almost.
Well, I don't think they're middle-aged, they were older.
Yeah.
I would sort of say they were in their mid-50s, I reckon.
Do you want to talk to me a bit about that?
Yeah, it was interesting. So I had on a shirt dress. It was a really beautiful sunny day, and I just walked down to our cafe that is near me, and I walked in, got a coffee, and I could feel, because this happens a lot, I'll feel people looking, and so when you just know when someone's looking, and I just did turn around and I looked straight at what was going on, and they were like fully, it was the full like scan, and then it was the look, and it was like, then they turned inwardly and just like started going, like didn't put their hands up, but they were like, oh. And there was a moment of kind of like, okay, maybe I've missed the tan on the back of my legs, or I thought, do they maybe know, maybe they've seen me on something, or maybe they maybe they know Bryden's family or something, and they've seen me walk in, or they know about their separation or whatever. And so I turned around and I swiped my coffee, and I sat there and waited and looked for it, and they looked again, and they were still going for it. They were not shy at all, and they could see, obviously, I was looking at them, and I'm not someone who is an angry person. I just, other than if I'm very pushed, and that's the thing I've discovered about my boundary. If you cross my boundary, that's it, you're gone.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot to get over my boundary. But there have been quite a few people lately, I've just gotten over that boundary and I'm not coming back from that. Anyway, and so, I could feel this seething in me, and I looked at them and I thought, right, Lou, you could smile, or you could just sort of like go, you right, ladies? And so I, had my mask on, and I pulled it down, and I went like that, and I just smiled at them, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to acknowledge that I've seen you do this, that it's not okay. And this is the thing, it's kind of like, what were they actually, it's their story is their story. I can't go up and go, what are you saying? That's not true, because I couldn't be fucked, basically, at the end of the day. And likely it wouldn't have been true, because I kind of know my story. I'm not anyone who's I'm not going out there doing crazy shit. So other than, my work and my kids and stuff at the moment. And, and I just sort of like grabbed my coffee, walked out, and there was a moment where I just absolutely plummeted. And I thought, that's, this is what I deal with on a daily basis. I'm surrounded by people that they just judge. And, I always say, women walk into a room, and it's the women that judge. Women dress for women. Yeah. We already get dressed because we worry about what a woman would say. We don't. If we were dressing for men, we'd be wearing tight little red dresses and things like that. Yeah. But when a woman walks into a room and we feel great in what we wear, we hold a certain energy. Yeah. We feel great about ourselves, all those kinds of things. And so the women are already picking up on that, but they see the outfit of like, damn, she looks real good, and I hate that she looks good, and I want to feel good, but I don't know how to make myself feel that good. So I'm going to, either it's sometimes seen as a compliment by going, gosh, she looks amazing, or whatever. And I really get that, because they are actually picking up on the energy. Yeah. And they want a part of that energy themselves. But the thing is about, I think what I'm helping people discover is making them stop and go within and go, what's going on here? Yeah. Is this about me, or should I actually just sort of say, do you know what, you look amazing? Because when you tell another that they look amazing, it does something within you. It's like the pay it forward, or giving service, or paying for someone's coffee. It has that same feeling. It feels great to give. Yeah. Because you get back what you put out. Yeah. And I'm hugely into that. I'm sick to death of just women have been pinned against each other. I feel for a very long time. I kind of felt as a teenager I was, pinned against the pretty ones, the popular ones, even though I wasn't, not that I wasn't popular or anything like that, but I was the funny girl, I was the funny chubby one, so that was kind of my fit into the narrative of the social society thing, and it just, I felt like I was constantly striving to be like these other girls, because at the end of the day, what was I striving for? A male. Yeah. Yeah, and I know that's crazy, but this is what's now happened after so long. And, it's this judgment, it's this constant judgment. And I've seen, I've lost friends, and, with our marriage separation, that kind of thing, because they're just too afraid to even sort of, even sometimes stand up for themselves because they don't know how to. And I know that sounds really long and convoluted, but, going back to the wardrobe just by starting with something small, like, knowing how you want to feel and dressing for stronger and having all defining things you want to choose and wear, it makes you feel parts of yourself that you've never discovered before, because you feel great and you feel happy, and you can do more, you can be more when you just acknowledge these parts of you that are loud.
Yeah, totally. And actually it's and even that whole productivity thing as well, like if I put on a pair of track pants, I immediately want to sloth around for the entire day. In fact, I don't let myself wear track pants because of that, because I know it really impacts on my productivity. Exactly. I have to wear shoes in the house because otherwise I feel sloppy. I would never wear Ugg boots outside of the house because I just think that looks horrible. But also I associate them with relaxing and just, not really sort of going about your day. Am I wrong for judging people for going out walking in their pajamas?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
You know,
That's good to know.
I got interested. I did a talk with Kate Hawkesby a while back about activewear, and activewear is a thing that, you know, it's become a lazy fashion.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is something I'm really trying to get people to understand. Their easy go-to is to kind of just be in this activewear because it looks cool, and I get all that. But I also deal with people who are, they don't want to wear sexy tight clothing, or not sexy clothing, but sort of firm-fitting clothing, but they'll hang out in their activewear where you can see everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's so backwards. I want you guys to feel amazing in how you feel in this, but do this in this clothing, because, you know, you can't go through life living in activewear. You have to start showing, because you're asking me to come along and help you. Well, your first step is, let's get out of this.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Lou, what are some of the common mistakes that you see, if there are, or themes that you see when you go into a wardrobe? What are the mistakes that everyone makes?
Holding on to things for no reason. And that is to do with, they'll just, generally what's happened is they've gone through some evolutions. They haven't recognised the evolutions. We go through evolution as a teenager, late teenager, early 20s, mid-20s, late 20s getting to 30, mid-30s, 40, you know, so it's this constant little thing. And if we don't take stock and see where we are, you end up just, you're buying more on that, you're buying more on that, you're buying more on that. And so you're not stopping and actually seeing where you are, how you want to be reflected into the world, what jobs you're now doing, what you're not doing. You know, people just keep on holding on to, onto the stuff. They don't also know that they are being drawn in by marketing. So they'll be drawn by the same stores, whether they're time poor, whether they're just they've had a good time in this store over here, but they'll keep going back to it. But those stores have their own thumbprints, and so they'll keep putting the same thumbprint. They've then pigeonholed themselves.
Yes.
You know, so what's going on? You've got all these little layers of things where they haven't actually stopped and kind of gone, actually, who am I? Oh, I'm a walking country road.
Yeah.
You know, so and so in with that, there's those feelings like, I'm not worthy, I can't wear that colour, I can, you know, it takes a lot for people to understand their style and who they are, but the first part of it is understanding who they are.
Yeah.
And if, you know, a lot of what I see is a lot of like safe buying, safe t-shirts, safe this, but I think about the amount of hours they've spent doing that, the amount of money they've spent, honestly, the amount of money going into wardrobes is phenomenal. But what I'm trying to teach people is that you could probably spend, you know, that same amount but get sort of better pieces, but you have to keep evolving the wardrobe because you're evolving. We don't stay stagnant as humans. We are constantly evolving and changing and moving. You know, we're energy, and if you don't keep and stop reflecting that and get out what's going on and removing those pieces of you that are like they're not actually giving you any substance. They're not actually, you know, half the shit I throw, actually everything I throw out with my clients, they're not wearing anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a thing of wardrobe.
Mate, I've got about like 5 of the same black jumpers.
Well, there you go.
In my wardrobe, and I don't think I've worn a black jumper in like 2 years.
We'll get rid of them.
Yeah, I know. But you're right? We stay in our safe sort of style that we think, okay, that's going to work for me. And then you end up going into another store, go, oh, that looks nice. It's because it's the same one that you've got in your, like my husband points it out to me. He's like, yeah, but you've already got 3 of them. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I might just leave that there, even though I quite like it.
Yeah. And there are things that I teach my clients around, you know, moving forward. When you go into a store, you have to stop. You need to ask yourself these questions. Check in with yourself. Have I got something like this? Can I wear this 5 ways? Do I really fucking love this?
Yeah.
Can I leave this here overnight and think about it? You know, so there are things that kind of like get you back in control. If you're not in control of who you are, you're going to lose control in the wardrobe and just start spending willy-nilly. And, but, you know, women in particular, they will just go and spend money to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
It's very quick self-gratification.
Absolutely. It's that and it's that difference between happiness and pleasure. Like it gives you that instant pleasure. Ultimately though, doesn't necessarily make you happy. There are things, however, in my wardrobe that I've had for years that bring me joy, and I will always go back and wear them, and you know, you feel really good. But there are other things that you buy that you're like, I'm not quite sure why I bought them, and I sort of feel a bit guilty. Not guilt, such a horrible, but you know, for spending that money and probably didn't really need it, and it makes me feel awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lou, what fashion rules can we break? or, you know, like what are the things which we I mentioned navy and black before,
Yeah.
you know, like there would be a time that we'd never do that. Like, are there any sort of quite defined rules that actually they don't count?
Yeah, I would probably say the biggest myth, I think, is that we're defined by 4 fruit shapes. You're an apple, you're a pear, you're this, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, to a degree you are, but you think about there's 7 billion in the world, and it's half of us are women, and yet we're only meant to be defined by 4 shapes. That's really screwed up to me. So what that teaches me is that when you're in control of your silhouette is your key, and there is so much information out there around how to dress for, you know, because if you're a size 6 or whether you're a size 16, if you're still defined by that body shape, how does those 2 different people dress for that?
Yeah.
So it's about learning the control of your silhouette, and once you nail the control of the silhouette, it's amazing. The other thing is, if you're a certain size, you can't wear this or can't wear that. That's bollocks.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that I'm undoing every single day. Colour theory, yes, it's true. There's parts of it absolutely which are true, but what happens is people can only think they can wear 5 or 6 colours, and it's wrong. You know, it's about that going out and actually trying and seeing our instinctive colours are the ones that we can feel and hear.
Yeah.
And I can pick them up with people intuitively anyway. What things look great on people, but they know this themselves. And oh God, yeah, I don't know. There are so many, Mikki. I don't even know really kind of where to begin.
I had my colours done back when I was like 20 something. What colours do you reckon I am?
Would sort of, because I don't really sort of like go with like shades of what, you know, times of the year. I would say things like you'd look amazing in burgundies, navies, kind of more your earthy tones.
Oh, nice.
But I would definitely put some like yellows and things on you as well.
Yeah,
Greens, definitely.
I'm a summer. Oh, my eyes? Sort of blue,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I say I think. You know, sometimes they change.
I'd say cooler blues definitely, like you like, you know, like beautiful like colours on my nails.
Yeah, I know. I'm seeing your nails going, oh, nice nails. Yeah. Yeah. Lou, so if for anyone listening who is actually interested in doing what you do because they feel themselves they've got that sort of innate intuition when it comes to clothes, because there are people that do and you see them, but also they want to sort of turn it into a career. What's their path? I mean, is there a path?
Well, interesting thing is, I remember when I thought about going back into this work, because this is something I always did in my background, but I just never thought I was worthy of doing anything with it. And I got to the point where I was working for this other person, and I was like, do you know what? I've got to do this. I've got to look into how I can actually, you know, make this really viable, because I want to help as many as I possibly can. I looked into doing some styling work and in a course, and it was like, I don't know, like $4,000 or something like that. And I thought to myself, but I know this stuff.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to spend that money, I'm learning about their ideals. And then I'm going to be putting their ideals onto other people. And it's like, but I know my ideals. I know what this is all about. And this isn't about me putting my ideals onto people. This is about me bringing forward their best ones.
Yeah.
And helping guide them. There's a massive difference.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of my time educating. So, yeah, I'm self-taught. You know, and I think with background of my forestry and things like that, it helps because my brain works very creatively. I'm very split down the middle. I don't know if you've seen the Queen's Gambit, but that's how my brain works. I work very, very three-dimensional. I can image someone in my mind, and I can see them wearing clothing.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy for me. So that's, you know, that has helped a lot in terms of like colour and, you know, it's, and I think, you know, being, you know, I'm not shy of now being on the camera. I used to be very shy, but definitely not anymore. I used to be, my family would say, oh, you're such a liar. I used to be so the drama queen and, you know, get out and do the plays for everyone when we had visitors over. And I so did, but I felt comfortable to do it there, but I didn't feel that, you know, as an adult, because I lost myself. But now I'm like, I'm not going to lie who I am. I'm not shy. There's definitely still parts of me that are shy, but yeah, that's kind of where I am now. And the amazing thing is, so over the last 2 years I've been writing some style modules about how I can help guide people through this work, because not everyone can have a stylist or afford to have a stylist. And but the thing is, I won't be there to help them buy those kinds of pieces that I can see work for them, but they can figure this stuff out for themselves by these modules that I've written. So there's 5 parts to this module, and it's a step-by-step process, but it's a lot of self-writing, a lot of going within, and a lot of understanding why they've got to where they are. Because you can't do this work unless you know where you are and how you've got there, and then how you can unpeel all that stuff to then move forward on your own, and then learning the right tools and all those kinds of things. And then there'll be a lot of guiders, like me being with them live, sort of talking through these modules with them in group sessions and things like that, because it's the first time, a stylist has only ever been there to help another stylist be a stylist. This is the first time a stylist has actually been teaching the greater good, the bigger, wide group, of actually how to take control of themselves.
Yeah, and so when is this available, Lou?
Well, fingers crossed. I was meant to have the launch next Friday, but it's just with COVID, it's sort of set things back again and things like that. And I haven't been very well lately. I've been through some heavy stuff. Obviously, I think I sort of talked to you a little bit about it, but yeah, my been through a bit of I hope it's probably something I've learned about myself and trying to teach everyone else to be feeling great. But I have been plummeted a while back just with stuff going on in my personal life, and so I just had to look after myself a little bit, and so yeah, now I'm sort of feeling a lot better. I can sort of get back into sort of putting my energy back into this, but it'll be launched online. So I was going to do a big party, but I don't have the energy or the time to do that. So I want to be able to launch it so that everyone can kind of share and find out what they're about and things like that. So fingers crossed, 31st of October,
awesome,
this Sunday night, and I'll be launching them online.
Oh, fantastic. The way that you talk about clothes and about people and finding themselves is exactly the same as how I talk to people with their nutrition, and how people sort of find themselves through exercise and things like that as well. And sometimes it can take an anchor behavior or change that then propels people forward to make other changes in their life,
1000%.
Yeah, and clothes are such a massive part of that, Lou. Just to finish up briefly, for the people who can afford and do want to invest in a stylist because they see that that's something that would be super helpful, what is the process with you, and how does that look for people?
Yeah, so there's different steps that I offer to prospective clients. I know, I remember thinking when I kind of got into this, it's like, why would people want to fucking pay for this? It's crazy. but at the same time, I don't do this for the money.
Yeah.
I do this because now I see so many clients come back to me and they're like, oh my God, this has changed my life. I know now where I was going wrong, how I can move forward. I get clients all the time messaging me or sending me photos going, look at me. So it's like even like 2-3 years on. They're like, look at me. It's life-changing. And so the first process, people just get in touch generally through email, and then they'll often through Facebook or Instagram and things like that, but I'll sort of head them towards my emails. And I like to converse with them to sort of see, I want to know why they're getting in touch, because otherwise there's no point. This is not about the clothing.
Yeah.
And so then I just send them back my sort of pricing, and there's different steps. It's like just getting in and doing the wardrobe and the edit, and sort of like them writing a list, and they can do that on their own if they want to, go through the list. And I can help kind of guide them where to go, what to do. But then there's also, then there's the shopping element of it too, where I can take them out and we go shopping together. And but it's actually more about the trying on.
Yeah.
The trying on is actually most the part of it, because I will see things they never would have sort of thought about. Like yesterday, I had a client size 16 to 18, and I didn't think she could ever fit or wear some of the things I was putting her into. She's like, oh my God, I had no idea I would even feel, I could do this.
Yeah, amazing.
That was amazing. And even my client the other day, he lost 75 kilos. Honestly, it was like, oh my God, it was amazing. She's been sending me pictures every day and little wee messages. And then there's a package where I do those first two together, but then I also go back into the wardrobe and I put everything back in together and make lots of outfits up for them.
Nice.
Take lots of photos and sort of set them up so that they've got these tools to go back to all the time and think about how they can kind of like really move forward. And then there's online, which I do quite often with my clients, and it's just as effective. It's amazing, and I think about my the clients that have even helped online is, I can still read their energy through the computer.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That sounds amazing, Lou, and it's certainly inspiring. And I just, as you're sitting here talking, I am literally thinking about what changes I can make even now based on, well, to be fair, like you're so generous with your information online anyway. So if anyone is interested in this space, even just following you on Instagram, they're going to pick up a bunch of tips that can really get them started. But I feel like you've really sort of got the gamut in terms of how to make this accessible information for people, because it is all about bringing your best self forward, right? And sort of owning your own space, and whether you do it through clothes, nutrition, exercise, mindset, it's all related.
Yeah, they're all related, and if you can do everything all at once, even better.
Totally. Lou, thanks so much for your time. Amazing. Where can we find you?
So I am at either on my Instagram, which is at Hellar stylist, or through my website. You can find my contact page there, and that's www.louhellarstylist.com.
That's awesome. Well, we will put that information in the show notes, plus hopefully the link to your modules as well for your new package. Have a great day, Lou.
Yeah, you too, Mikki. Thank you so much. I love following you too, by the way. You're the same as me. I give out the information. And that's a really important thing that we can do. This is not like what we do is actually not about the money. This is about helping, how and who more can I help? What my goal is to be in Sweden in someone's phone and then watching me, and
100%.
Yeah.
Alright team, hope you really enjoyed that. And Lou really opened up and shared a lot about herself, and I truly appreciated that, and she is just awesome. Definitely check her out at louhellarstylist.com, and particularly that style journal if you are interested in exploring some of Lou's services. Next week on the show, I bring back Dr. Phil Maffetone, and we have a really good discussion of his sort of foundational activity and diet principles, which I really enjoyed having a chat to him about. And you might remember he was on one of I believe the second episode of Mikkipedia, him and Paul Lawson talking about metabolic health and COVID-19. So we touch a little bit on that as well. Until then though, you can catch me over on Facebook at Mikki Williden Nutrition, on Instagram and Twitter at Mikki Williden, or over on my website mikkiwilliden.com, where you can sign up to a number of meal plans for athletes, fat loss, just a good real food nutrition plan, a keto longevity plan, or book a one-on-one consult with me. Alright team, until next week, enjoy your week, and see you soon. Bye bye.